The city of Louisville is on edge as leftist protesters are enraged over the lack of charges against officers associated with Breonna Taylor's death. In this video, we're going to take a look at the long-awaited decision by Kentucky's Attorney General to charge one ex-officer only with wanton endangerment, how leftist activists are already exploding, and what's really behind the massive social unrest that threatens to topple our nation's urban neighborhoods. You are not going to want to miss this. Greetings, everyone, patriots all across the globe. Dr. Steve here with you. Great to be with you as always. If this is your first time with us and you're looking for some daily encouragement and optimism as well as analysis to help you make sense of these crazy times, you have found your oasis in this channel. We post 2 videos a day analyzing current events, allow some super awesome conservative trends so we can all live in the present in light of even better things to come. So if you haven't already done so, you know what to do. Make sure to smack that bell and subscribe button. It'd be an absolute privilege to have you as a regular part of this channel where each and every day we together celebrate the inevitable collapse of left-wing globalism and the unstoppable rise of a new conservative age. But first, we've got an awesome new device that's here to keep you personally cool in the midst of some of the more sweltering summers or even overly heated workspaces and interiors. It's called the Arctic Breeze 3-in-1 Air Cooler, and it's a mini air conditioner unit that's small and compact enough to put right on your desk. It works as a portable air cooler, air purifier, and air humidifier. Plus, it has 3 different wind speeds and USB connectivity, so it can be powered by multiple devices. Now, if you click on that link down below today, for a limited time, they're offering this little gem at 50% off plus free shipping to boot. That's right, 50% off and free shipping. So don't wait. It's a limited time offer. Click on that link below or simply go to easysummercool.com and order your personal portable AC unit today. All right, gang, so let's dive right in here. The long-awaited decision by Kentucky's Attorney General, a young Republican by the name of Daniel Cameron, the first black Attorney General in Kentucky, regarding the fate of 3 officers involved in the shooting death of Breonna Taylor has just been announced. Officer Brett Hankison, who was fired earlier this year after the shooting, was the only one of the 3 officers to be indicted, and that indictment involved only 3 counts of wanton endangerment in the first degree. No charges have been announced against the other 2 officers involved in the incident. If you're not familiar, Breonna Taylor was shot and killed by Louisville police officers who were investigating her apartment as part of a drug bust. And as they entered her home using a no-knock warrant during a narcotics investigation back in March of this year, her boyfriend started firing on the police officers and Breonna was killed in the shootout. Hankinson was fired reportedly for showing, quote, extreme indifference to the value of human life when he wantonly and blindly shot 10 rounds of gunfire into Taylor's apartment. Taylor herself was struck 5 times. Now, wanton endangerment is a Class D felony. It's punishable by 1 to 5 years in prison. It is not, as I understand it, the charge that defenders and protesters of Breonna Taylor were looking for, because the charge of wanton endangerment involves acting in a manner that entails the substantial, and this is key, danger of death, not the death itself. In other words, the fact that someone actually died via murder or manslaughter is not included in the charge. So needless to say, the activists who've taken up the cause of Breonna Taylor are not happy about this. In fact, as we saw earlier, a man obviously unhappy with the decision ended up pulling out a gun in the midst of demonstrators. He was nevertheless and thankfully successfully restrained by those around him. But we can imagine this is only the beginning of a new round of outrage that is going to sweep across our nation against what far-left activists are calling a systemically racist police force. In fact, anger is already pouring in from activists across the country. The neo-Marxist ultra-leftist Linda Sarsour of Until Freedom tweeted out, "Justice has not been served. Rise up all across the country, everywhere. Rise up for hashtag Breonna Taylor." And this Marxist call to rise up is precisely what the city of Louisville has been bracing for in its mandated lockdown. Louisville Mayor Greg Fisher has declared a state of emergency ahead of the Attorney General's announcement today, which allows the mayor to enact curfews and other restrictive measures as he sees fit. And this is not in response merely to the threat of riots that, of course, we've been seeing going on across the country. One of the more serious escalations of late was the near clash between opposing armed militias a few weeks back in Louisville. There was a rather tense standoff between two militia groups, a black nationalist militia group known as NFAC, which stands for Not Effing Around Coalition. It's creative, I'll give them that. The Not Effing Around Coalition, they came into Louisville in order to demand justice for Breonna Taylor a few weeks back. So this NFAC, which is a black nationalist militia, about 200 of them, came into Louisville to protest. And they were greeted by another militia known as the 3%er militia, which is a huge national militia organization. They came to counter the NFAC and help the police. So obviously police were very concerned that with both militias showing up, they could be seeing the beginning of a very real civil war setting off here. But things didn't work too well for NFAC. Earlier in the day, one of their members' weapons went off and he ended up shooting 3 of their own. Now, thankfully, none of the injuries were life-threatening, but you know things are not starting off too well when you start shooting and all you're hitting is your own side. And then when they marched to the city center with both the 3%ers and the police standing guard, very interesting coalition there, their leader of the NFAC just ranted some social justice stuff and they reportedly left. There was really nothing for them to do there. And so in order to quell any potential repeat of armed militias clashing against each other, the mayor of Louisville has declared a state of emergency and is proactively prepared to keep the peace in the city, or at least nip in the bud, as it were, any violence that may spark from the clear dissatisfaction over the decision to charge only one ex-police officer and a charge that doesn't involve the actual murder of Breonna Taylor, the killing, or however you want to put it. Needless to say, that in the midst of Black Lives Matter craze going on, the Attorney General's office has been under enormous pressure to file charges against the officers. Even the newly woke Major League Baseball got involved in all this. On their opening day, if you can believe this, on opening day, the Tampa Bay Rays sent out a tweet saying, "Today is opening day, which means it's a great day to arrest the killers of Breonna Taylor." Now, of course, Breonna Taylor was killed in Louisville, Kentucky. So what precisely does Louisville have to do with Tampa Bay is anyone's guess. But it appears that they've both been flooded by the same waves of wokeness. And when it came to the first game of the NFL season, the national anthem was sung by the R&B duo Chloe and Haley, who were both wearing activist t-shirts honoring George Floyd and Breonna Taylor. And so as you can see, there's been enormous pressure to charge these police officers with their death. And while one former officer has been charged with wanton endangerment, obviously that charge falls dreadfully short of what activists and protesters wanted. So I think we can expect another round of supposedly righteous outrage from the social justice warrior crowd. And I think it's important to keep all of this in context to understand the big picture of what's really going on here. But before we get into that, I want to make sure that you all know that we have tons of special videos that are available only to members of our Turley Talks Insiders Club, which you can join by clicking on the link below in the pinned comment section. Now, if you want more access to me and to a global network of conservatives all over the world, you will definitely want to become a Turley Talks Insiders Club member. You get all kinds of deep dive videos, you get merch and benefits, which you're going to absolutely love. So make sure to join our Insiders Club by clicking on the link below today. All right, so in terms of the big picture here, this is unfortunately all the fruit of decades of cultural Marxism infesting our universities and our inner cities. Cultural Marxism was first brought to the United States by members of what's called the Frankfurt School in the 1930s and 40s. So these were bona fide Marxists, right? Cultural Marxists like Herbert Marcuse, Marx Horkheimer, Theodor Adorno. These are all these radical professors who came to the United States from Europe during the rise of Hitler and World War II. And they started teaching students a Marxist conception of life in the guise of what we now know as critical race theory. or critical theory in general. And the guiding principle of critical theory, and this is absolutely key, was to produce an account of society that assumed that society was made up of intentional power discrepancies that deliberately oppress people. Again, this is the assumption. Society is made up of power relationships where some people get to impose their view of the world on others, and they always defend the status quo to protect their arbitrary power advantages over the oppressed. So what critical theory seeks to do is supposedly unmask and reveal this arbitrary domination found in every Western society. Every Western nation is by definition assumed guilty of imposed power discrepancies that deliberately disenfranchise people. And then once exposed, then social justice kicks in and provides the emancipation. It's thoroughly Marxist. There's a bourgeois, there's a proletariat, there's exploitation. And there's an ideological means of emancipating and liberating people from all of that. And as we can see, it can turn very, very violent. In fact, the scholar Heather McDonald, she's detailed how it's precisely this pernicious racial logic that critical race theory engenders, where we get the whole conception that white police officers are somehow these racist bigots who are at war against blacks. And so what happened to Breonna Taylor and George Floyd and others are by definition not isolated incidents. They're rather indicators revealing the truth about a pandemic of police on black violence. So this pervasiveness of cultural Marxism is essential to understanding what's really going on here in terms of why we're seeing such mass social unrest. And we will continue to see such social unrest until cultural Marxism is dealt with decisively once and for all. But that, my friends, is for another video. Now, before you go, make sure to like this video, comment down below, and subscribe to my channel. And you will definitely want to check out my latest video. I just uploaded it on how Ghislaine Maxwell's friends predict that she will indeed sell out Bill Clinton as new bombshell revelations emerge. You're not going to want to miss that. So make sure to click on the link, and I will see you over there. God bless.